Hey, what's up everybody? Bringing another review. This time of the SH Figuarts Iron Man Mark 7 from the first Avengers. So, let's get started. This is one of those things where I did not know what to expect. It was shown off and it kind of just came out of nowhere. But I'm really excited to have it. After playing with it, I realized there are a lot of differences between the Mark 7 and some previous armors that are in the same generation. You kind of can't compare it to the 47 and the 50 and things like that. But the 7 has been the pinnacle of the earlier technology stuff, and it's really great. So let's get into that. I want to start by going over the look of it. It's really, really nice. It's one of those things where it looks really simple, but it's actually really complex all at the same time. It has that bulkiness, that it has the look of the armor of the comics, as well as the look that stands alone in the movies. So for that being said, it's something that I really, really enjoy because you can use it with your comic stuff, you can use it with your movie stuff, you kind of can make it blend wherever you want. And that's the real fun that I have with the Iron Man armors. So the first thing I want to do is I'm actually not going to jump into articulation first. I'm actually going to jump into a comparison between the Figma and the Hasbro. And the reason why I want to do that first is everybody has their preferences, so you can see the size and you're going to be able to see what what it is you really enjoy about each one. So to the left we'll have the Figma one, and to the right we'll do the Hasbro one of the Mark 7. And as you can see, each one of them has kind of their own scale that works with each other, and they kind of have their own look. The Mark 7 for Figma came out quite some time ago. It's not really outdated. It was ahead of its time for what it was. It has the brighter red going for it. It has the candy paint gloss. On the Hasbro one, we have the dull red. It's the bigger body, but it is a $20 figure. So everybody has their preferences. This kind of shows you what you want to get and what you want to do. There are issues with each of them, obviously. The SHF being the shortest, so it works with mostly import stuff and not Marvel Legends, anything like that. The Figma kind of gives you that blend of both and even gives you the extra articulation, while the Hasbro gives you one at the price point that you would like. So with that being said, now that we have the comparison out of the way, we're going to talk about the SHF one. So let's get these guys out of here. Now, to jump into my favorite part, the articulation. So the head can move up, and it actually has excellent range because if you want to do flight poses. So let's say you are doing a charging flight pose. Voila, you now have the articulation for the head. So it actually can come down really, really well. It can go over to the side. It can rock side to side. The head has all the articulation you could possibly want on this figure, and that's really, really good. It is something that has been modified and been going through and getting better with each model. So even coming back to the 7, it's great that they didn't backtrack. The arms actually pull out a little to give you extra bit of articulation. They can rotate 360 degrees with zero issue, and they can hold the weight of itself. The shoulder pads are on the arms, so that's always great in my opinion. I don't think it should be attached to the body. There's Bicep Swivel. The arms are indeed double jointed, and they fold in very, very well. As you can see here, folds all the way up and through. So if you want a cannonball, you can. Now, here's where it gets really fun, and this is something I got really excited about. For this Iron Man armor in the midsection, it's actually broken up into a new technology it's not really on all the models, not the way it is on the Mark 7. So as you can see here, I'm going to do it. And as you can see, it raises pretty high. Obviously, that causes gaps. But if you're going to do anything with articulation, you can actually hide it very well. So as you can see, it can rotate and gives you a great ab crunch, going both forward and backwards. So backwards, he has great ab crunch. And going forward, so if you now want to get certain poses in, or you want to act like you're being hit, you now can do it very well to the point that it doesn't look stiff. So falling down is actually very easy. Doing crouching down poses, like actually the 3-point pose. Let's do that real fast and see what's going on. So, and sorry for the sound issue. But yeah, the 3-point pose can be done. Obviously, there's going to be gaps in the articulation that cause it, but if you angle it properly, you easily have a 3-point pose. So there's tons of gaps. And with that being said, now you can see that it rotates in a lot of ways. You can do him getting punched, flying going forward. There's tons of maneuvers that you can actually do with the 7 that would look crazy in some photos that hopefully I can get some. Now, we're going to jump into the legs, which is the final part of articulation. The legs have the drop down method, which you've seen me do. They're double jointed and there's die cast in it, so that's really cool. On the backhand side, the thruster can come up in the back, which allows you the extra articulation for the feet. There is a little bit of, there's some ankle pivot there. Not a lot, but enough. And there's toe pivot as well. Toe pivot's pretty tough because there's die cast there, so please be careful. So, we've knocked down the articulation, we've knocked down the size comparisons. Next up, let's talk about gimmicks. Now, the Figma killed it years ago with the gimmicks of the full spec, but that was exclusive. So it kind of knocked it down a peg because a lot of people weren't able to get it. So with this one, they kind of built in all the gimmicks for you, at least as much that they could. So we're going to go over those one by one. The first one I want to talk about is there is no more swapping of parts. You actually have the thrusters on the backhand side. And I really, really love this. This is something that I was getting tired of with the part swapping stuff, because for the most part, it could be added in easily. So when you are doing flight poses, you now don't have to stress about part swapping. It's all in one figure. Back thrusters are there. The only thing you do have to worry about swapping, and I'm going to get to that now, is when you want to wiggle it off, as I'm going to do right here. Swap one out. And you want to add it with the micro missiles. So let's find the slot for it before I mess that up too. So as you can see here, there's a slot for the micro missiles, the big difference between the two. So that's going to be the one difference. The hatch will open up, you see the micro missiles. So let's take that off, put the normal piece back on. And you still have your thruster flaps, which is amazing. Next up, I want to talk about how so on the hands, I know you see the tiny gauntlets. Now with the tiny gauntlets, most of the time we have the issue of the wrist missile. Now that a gimmick is now in via part swapping, just like with the Figma. So you actually get the wrist missile here as well. So let's change that focus. There's also the forearm mounted rocket. Now this one I haven't swapped on yet, but I'm going to do it now. And I'm always scared of this one, like scratching the paint. Voila, got it off. So now you have the cannon and the forearm, the one on the wrist. Let's bring this up a little bit so you can see. And next up, we have the hip rockets for the Mark 7. Pop that off, pop this bad boy on. So just like the Figma Mark 7, gimmick-wise, the SHF one has now matched it in terms of what you get. And they've made it, well, it's exclusive in Japan, but it is getting a normal release here. So for the most part, you actually get the bang for your buck now, especially now they're getting a US release and you get a Hall of Armor with it. So that's really dope for the US release. Meanwhile, the Japanese release was exclusive. But it's great that they're now adding these things on. I think that's wonderful. It's one of those things where you finally get into that pinnacle point where you're going to get the bang for your buck and don't feel cheated. Especially now that a lot of people are getting worn out on Iron Man armors. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll this down. And another thing I want to talk about is you cannot swap it with the head joint of the Mark IV. It's not going to happen. And the reason why is because the neck joints are completely different. The one on the Mark 7 is way too wide, while the Mark 4 is a little bit more thin. I've tried it. I have removed the neck. It would have been great to add these on to swap it, but it just doesn't work out that way. Didn't work here. Next up, I'm going to do a comparison of sizes with different companies and things like that. So I'm going to leave him like this. And we're going to jump into the comparison with both other companies and companies of the same. What am I going to do first? Ooh, you know what? Because I know a lot of people may want to replace their Figma one or may want one to go to their Figma Avengers because it's from that. Here he is next to Hulk from Figma. So size-wise, he looks really good with it. Now I'm going to jump in Captain America from Figma. And I'm going to use these guys because I know people want this to work. You want it to work. I'm not going to blame you. And right now it's looking pretty good because Iron Man is still taller than Cap in the armor. and that's kind of what you want. Thor is around the same size. So the SHF one can mix and match with your Figma Avengers and not look out of place, which is pretty cool. That's what you want. Next up, we're going to do, actually, I want to do this one. I'm going to compare it to the Mezco Iron Man so you guys can see the size differences. And while we add it for Mezco sizes, let's talk about with a normal Mezco because Captain America is a little tall. So, I mean, not Captain America, I'm sorry. The Iron Man is pretty tall. So, with Mezco Cap, he's a little smaller, but this one actually can still work. It doesn't look too out of place. So that's pretty good. Let's compare him to a normal Figma lady, which I used the Makoto Kusanagi with a saber head. So as you can see with the ladies, they'll actually be pretty small, but they'll still look good. Next up, we're going to compare it to an SHF cap with an old boy head and R2K trooper shields. And size-wise, they look really good with each other. Not too big, not too small. They work out just fine. Next up on the line is a 1000 toy synthetic human. Looks like it doesn't look too bad at all. Yep, it doesn't look too bad at all. It's pretty small, but not too small, so it works out just fine. Here he is with an SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Kruger. My boards are uneven because it's supposed to be an old clock tower. So, yeah, it works out. Now, next up, we're going to test it up with a Marvel Legend, a normal sized one, and not an Armored Avenger Iron Man. Let's get rid of you guys for a sec. So here he is with the Marvel Legends Carnage. And yeah, he doesn't look too out of place. Carnage is a tad bit bigger, but nothing crazy. Last but not least, we're going to go with Articulated Icons Ninja. Because under the Bendis run, Iron Man fought ninjas, so you can never have enough. So yeah, scales pretty well with a lot of stuff. Out of scale with a few things, but nothing too crazy. All in all, like as far as SHF goes, I love the Mark III, but I am in love with the Mark 7. Can't front. It's definitely the new wave for me. I'm enjoying it. Hopefully I can take some really dope pictures and you guys will enjoy it at the end. In the meantime, guys, hope you found it informative. Hope you enjoyed. And most of all, I hope you do good, be good, and drink your water. Later.